CSR strategies after reading. This video will focus on the after reading strategies of CSR. After reading, students wrap up, review, and extend beyond what they've just read. To do this, students create a variety of questions that ask them to consider the text in different ways. In doing so, they evaluate important details, reinforce their understanding of the text, and make connections with prior knowledge. Finally, students review what they've learned and reconsider their before-reading questions and purposes, helping to identify what is important to take away from the reading. Students will create three types of questions: right there, think and search, and author and you questions. Right there question is one that can be answered with information found in one location in the text. To create a right there question, students should identify an important fact that they'd like to remember. This will be the answer to their right there question. Next, they write a question that requires the answer they identified. A think and search question requires students to look in two different places to find the answer. They must compare or contrast two things to come to a conclusion. To create a think and search question, students identify important information from different sentences or paragraphs in the passage. This will be their answer. Next, they write a question that requires the answer they identified. An author and you question requires students to use information provided by the author combined with information they already know. Students should identify important information from the passage that makes them wonder about the topic. Next, they write a question that requires the answer they identified. Again, students will create these three types of questions: right there, think and search, and author and you. Let's look at this example about the trans fat ban taking effect next year. First, let's write and answer a right there question. So for a right there question, a student needs to identify a specific piece of information in one place that'll be the answer to their question. You might want to help students identify what are the important pieces of information they'd like to take away from this. In this, the date September 15th, 2018, the day that the ban comes into force, the day that trans fats will be banned, is an important piece of information that a student would probably want to take away from this reading. So if this is the answer to the question, a student would have to write the question: when will trans fat be banned? The answer being September 15th, 2018. Again, this right there question has the information found at one specific location in the text. Now, let's see how a student would create a think and search question. A think and search question, a student needs to take information from two places in the text and compare and contrast it as their answer. In this article, a student might pull out the idea that a trans fat ban could prevent 12,000 heart attacks, and the fact that trans fats are used in lots of pastries, baked goods, and some packaged goods to extend shelf life. A question that requires both of these pieces of information would be that: why is trans fat being banned? The answer being that a trans fat ban could prevent heart attacks caused from some of the trans fat foods we eat, like pastries, baked goods, and other packaged goods. This think and search question requires students to take information from two places and compare and contrast it for their answer. Finally, let's think how a student would create an author and you question. Again, an author and you question requires students to wonder about something in the text. Using the information here that trans fat is used in pastries, baked goods, and other packaged goods, a student might wonder, does anything I eat contain trans fat? So this requires them to think about something in the text where it says what types of food contain trans fat, and have them think about, do I eat any of these foods? Do I eat something that contains trans fat? It requires them to connect what's in the text with themselves in their own life. Now, as a final review, you also want to have students identify important information and answer the questions that they set for themselves before reading. Now, the predictions we said that students might make about this text were that the text might tell them when the band began. A student might also have predicted that the text will tell them what a trans fat is. Now, if these were the students' predictions, they'd see that both of these pieces of information were found in the text. The text would have told the students, and they would have recognized that it tells them when the band begins. It also tells them what a trans fat is. By reviewing their predictions, not only is this information reinforced, but it also confirms that what they thought about the text beforehand was correct, or if it was incorrect, what maybe they could have looked for. If a student set the purpose, what are trans fats, they would have been on the lookout for what a trans fat is, and by reviewing this after, it again reinforces this information they hope to get out of the text. At this point, a student might also want to review their gist, to finally again reinforce the main idea of the text. What follows are some common errors students face in the after reading phase. If a student's questions are not varied, be sure that they have a clear understanding of the types of questions they can ask, while encouraging them to start them in different ways. If a student's questions lack important information, have them reconsider previous steps of the CSR process, such as their gist statement, to see what they already indicated was important. If a student's questions cannot be answered by the information in the text, remind students that the purpose of writing and answering questions for this process is to help them understand and remember what they've read.